Hi, everybody, and welcome to the next unit. We are going to be working on Unit 2 now, which is on rhetorical analysis. So let's take a walk through what you'll be doing in Unit 2 and then more specifically in Module 3. And I'll do a separate video for Module 4. So go ahead and click into the modules and scroll down until you get to the Unit 2 rhetorical analysis section. As usual, we'll start by clicking on that overview, and that's going to give us just a general idea of what's going to be happening in this unit and allow us to do some planning to get through this unit. So in Unit 1, you learn some strategies for annotating texts in a meaningful way. You've noticed maybe that annotation helps you to slow down and think about what you're reading more deeply. And of course, these skills can be applied to anything that you need to read in any kind of class or work environment. So these are really helpful skills to get us to engage with whatever we're studying in a more profound way. So I hope you've enjoyed our annotation so far. And it's also the key first step toward rhetorical analysis. When you annotate, you're going to be looking at the author's strategies, which is what we're going to be doing in Unit 2. So you're going to see some different articles, not necessarily on the act of writing, but some articles that we can look at on different topics and analyze in a rhetorical way by gathering some evidence and highlighting the author's choices and why they make these choices, what's their purpose. So in short, you'll see here that annotation helps you to ask better questions about a text that you're looking at. So if you scroll down, you'll see there's a Unit 2 video, which you should view before moving on, but we'll move on for the purposes of this walkthrough into the writing project number 2 on rhetorical analysis. So we're going to be leaving that literacy narrative for a little while and working on some rhetorical skills, and then we'll come back to the literacy narrative later on in the course. So the writing project 2 will be a rhetorical analysis. And a rhetorical analysis is a type of writing that explores how an author communicates a message. So you may think back to some of the terms that you learned in your earlier education days about ethos, which is the credibility of the author, pathos, which is the way of engaging your audience with emotions, and logos, which is like the facts that you're gathering, the evidence that you're presenting. So you may or may not be familiar with these terms, but here's a great time to dive deeper into these terms and understand them fully. So if you keep scrolling down, you'll notice that you're going to want to consider some of your invention work that you've done already from Module 2. So you'll be thinking about what the main idea or argument is as you annotate the reading for Module 3. You'll look at rhetorical elements like purpose, audience, topic, writer, and content, and how they impact your audience. You're going to be thinking about emotions and reactions to the text. What specifically does that text invoke in you? What feelings do you have as you're reading through it? Think about things you don't understand about the text and ask any questions that you might have in that annotation section. And myself and the writing mentor will be diving into hopefully getting those questions answered. If you keep scrolling down in this overview, you'll see the Module 3 invention activity, which is to help you prepare for your rhetorical analysis. You're going to be asked to select an op-ed article, and we'll get into some more details about that in just a minute. And you'll notice what you'll be doing in Module 4, and I won't talk about that until we get into Module 4 and I create the video for that one. So keep scrolling down and read through this planning for your project. It's always good to look ahead to know that you're hitting the target checkpoint areas as you're going through the material. So you're going to be choosing a strong article. You're going to be reading rhetorically, which we're going to practice. You're going to be tracking your reactions and saving your article and notes. So those are just a few things to keep in mind as you make your way through Unit 2. So you're ready now to click on that next button at the bottom of the page. And this gives you a more specific overview of just Module 3. So before we were looking at both Module 3 and 4 together, and now we're diving into Module 3. So we're going to be examining rhetorical strategies like tone, structure, word choice, and we're going to connect the audience to achieve a specific purpose. So we're going to be practicing how to analyze these texts, and we've already been doing that in the annotations we've been doing so far, so you already have some practice. So one of your goals I want to point out in Module 3 is to apply these primary research skills. So you're going to find an op-ed or opinion article officially and opposite the editorial article to analyze. So you're going to be annotating that article and reflecting on it just as the way we've been doing so far in the class. So you're ready now to scroll down to the next button, which will take us to the learning materials page, analyzing writing in the real world. And you'll notice that there's a suggested completion time of about 1.5 hours. Like I have said in the past, this may take you longer, or it may be shorter depending on your reading speed and how quickly you work through these types of assignments. So scroll down and take a look at the analyzing writing in the real world. So you're going to be thinking about the purpose of the writing, the intended audience, some strategies that are used to persuade, and then how do the cultural, historical, and social contexts affect what a text means. Now, we had some great questions in Module 2 about how to get to know your intended audience a little bit better. And so you know the intended audience for our class is your classmates, myself, the writing mentor, and you can find out more information on us by looking through those preliminary introductions you did during the first week to find out information about your classmates, and then also by looking at the instructional team details that both the writing mentor and I posted about who we are. And so that should give you some additional information about us as the audience. But what happens when you're not writing for a class, but you're writing for something, somebody, a group of people outside the academic classroom? You're going to just simply, you can Google or ask AI some details about the audience that you're working for, or working towards appealing to get some specific ideas of what might work best for them. And you'll know how to change your language and tone depending on who you're addressing. Obviously, if you're addressing friends or family or non-professionals, it would be more informal. And if you're addressing colleagues and coworkers and people in the business world, it would be more formal. And we talked about that a little bit already in our annotations during week 1. So scroll down and hit that next button, and you'll come to our annotation activity. And this is really just going to help us get through what I've already discussed and give you some real live examples of how to rhetorically analyze articles. And then you're going to be engaging in learning about the article, the author. You can Google who the author is to find out more information about who they are. Think about the author's purpose in writing this article, and think about the logos, pathos, and ethos, and how the author engages their audience by using these tools and strategies, because you'll also be using these tools and strategies in your writing. So go ahead and click on the next button and you'll see that we have a Module 3 quiz. It'll be like the other quizzes. So this is just kind of a knowledge check to assess your understandings of the key concept that we've learned in Module 3. And then if you click the next button, you'll see what our invention activity for Module 3 will be, and that is that annotated op-ed piece. So scroll down and you'll see here where we are in the process, done the invention plus the research, and you'll notice the other areas, feedback, revising, and editing, are grayed out. We haven't gotten to that point yet. So in this invention assignment, you're going to be engaging critically with an article and thinking about and reflecting on your initial impressions. And this is going to serve as the primary research phase where you begin mapping out your approach for the final analysis. We're going to use some of the strategies we've already been doing, the brainstorming, outlining, and writing some brief initial reflections. So you're familiar with all these skills already from Unit 1. If you scroll down, you'll notice some directions on how to complete the assignment, how to choose your text to analyze. There's a helpful list. Then in step 2, there are some suggestions on what to consider. And step 3, how to write a summary of those annotations in 150 to 200 words. And then finally, some instructions on how to submit your assignment, and it should be done in APA format. And if you keep scrolling down, you'll notice there is a rubric associated with this assignment, and you can use this rubric as a checklist to make sure that you have included everything that you can in order to get the total 10 points available on this assignment. And that concludes what we'll be doing in Module 3. I hope you have a great week, and I've really enjoyed all of your questions and comments and feedback so far.